Homage to Buddha Shakyamuni, homage to Manjushri, homage to all the lineage masters. Profound and subtle dharma is rarely encountered in eons. Now we can follow it. May we realize the Tathagata's meaning. To liberate all sentient beings, please generate unsurpassed bodhicitta. Today we will study the overview of the magical manifestation matrix entitled Essence of Clear Light together. Actually, regarding this teaching, I mentioned it in the translator's preface that I rewrote this year. I had translated it once before. However, at that time, the translation was quite literal, so it was not particularly easy to understand. Moreover, at that time, His Holiness Jigme Phuntsok Rinpoche gave special permission for this translation because many people in the Han region who studied Vajrayana didn't really understand the Dharma, especially the principles of Vajrayana. Later, after I translated it, it was around 1996. At that time, there were perhaps several hundred people. I remember there were several hundred people. I also taught it to you. When I was teaching, everyone gained a certain understanding of the principles of Vajrayana's ground, path, and result. At that time, the result of the written exams and oral exams were very good in many respects. Since then, over such a long period of time, I have often thought about teaching a bit of Vajrayana teachings and practice methods. However, because there are too many people, I'm concerned about people breaking their Samaya vows and all the various complicated situations that can arise. So all along, I haven't taught very much, especially when it comes to the more theoretical teachings. We can actually say this magical manifestation matrix is a particularly supreme Dharma teachings that combines theory and practice. If you truly understand this treatise well, you should be able to comprehend the general principles of Vajrayana. So I'm also thinking for this magical manifestation matrix teaching, we'll probably only finish part of it this time. And then as for next year, whether it will continue in summer, autumn, or winter, I really can't say for now. I definitely won't set it for winter. Otherwise, during the winter, many people will just keep waiting and watching, waiting and waiting like that. However, this way, there's actually nothing wrong with that either. As long as everyone has faith in the Vajrayana teachings, I don't need to be so hard-hearted about it. So I am thinking, next year I haven't set a time yet. But this year, however much we teach, next year we'll cover a bit more, and then a bit more the year after that. In this way, could we finish it within 3 years? I have such a thought. Assuming no unexpected impermanence occurs, that's my plan. The other day, I heard that Khenpo Namdrol, who went abroad with His Holiness before, is teaching Drupchen Rinpoche's overview of the magical manifestation matrix at a Buddhist center in America. He has already set a 5-year plan. Every year he goes there to teach for about 7 days. He goes there every year to give teachings. I think it's the same in Singapore. He teaches for 7 days in Singapore and 7 days in the US, also a 5-year plan. I think a 5-year plan is a bit long, but we will see how it goes. In any case, this year we will go through the first part and study together with everyone. Because we feel that there are quite a lot of people outside who are studying tantric teachings, but indeed many people still don't really understand what makes Vajrayana so supreme. Just like when studying Qigong, they're very enthusiastic and enjoy it a lot. Studying Vajrayana is the same. They don't know what its real qualities are. Actually, empowerment, fire offering, these are only certain aspects of Vajrayana. They're more like entry-level practices. The most crucial thing is to understand some of the essential principles within Vajrayana. I feel this is very important. So now let me explain the essence of clear light. Today, basically, we'll just go through the Homage verses and explain the literal meaning, an overview of the secret commentary, thorough dispelling of darkness throughout the 10 directions, entitled Essence of Clear Light. The Secret Essence Tantra is also called the Magical Manifestation Matrix. There are actually many commentaries on the Secret Essence Tantra. In fact, there are many in the Tibetan region, and there are also some from India. So there are many commentaries on the Secret Essence Tantra. But among the commentaries on the Secret Essence Tantra, there is one particularly famous one, composed by the omniscient Longchenpa, called Thorough Dispelling of Darkness Throughout the 10 Directions. The overview of this commentary was composed by Mipham Rinpoche. Actually, when explaining the Tantras, there are 2 approaches on the extensive deeds lineage and the deep insight lineage. Master Minling Lokan Dharmashri's general meaning of the secret essence and commentary on the Guhyagarbha Tantra belong to the extensive deeds lineage. In these works, he cites many scriptural sources and lines of reasoning to explain the principles of the magical manifestation matrix. The deep insight lineage refers to the explanations given by the omniscient Longchenpa and Rongzom Pandita, as well as the omniscient Mifam Rinpoche. Their explanations belong to the deep insight lineage. The actual name of this treatise is The Essence of Clear Light. How is the essence of clear light? In fact, it is the treatise Thorough Dispelling of Darkness Throughout the 10 Directions. It's an overview of the omniscient Longchenpa's commentary on the magical manifestation matrix. As you know, a treatise has both an overview and detailed explanations. For instance, the omniscient Mifam Rinpoche's commentary on the ornament of the middle way has an overview of the ornament of the middle way at the beginning, which is the general overview, and then below each verse has its own explanation. Longchenpa's commentary on the magical manifestation matrix is the same way. In his text, there's also a division into the overview and the detailed commentary. This overview is particularly extensive, so here Mifam Rinpoche explains it through the method of pith instructions. He explains Longchenpa's overview of the magical manifestation matrix. The name of this overview is called The Essence of Clear Light. Why is it called the essence of clear light? Actually, the essence of clear light can be explained in many different ways. For example, there's the clear light of emptiness and the clear light of appearance. When the generation stage and completion stage are perfected through practice, this is also called the clear light body. The nature of the mind is also called clear light. In the great perfection practice of Turgal and the leaping over method, clear light ultimately manifests as well. However, the essence of all these clear lights, that the truly most profound meaning, is primarily explained here. We can say that the Buddha nature, or the aspect of clear light within the nature of mind, is explained most thoroughly and completely through pith instructions in this treatise, The Essence of Clear Light. The essence of clear light can actually dispel all kinds of darkness within our minds. Therefore, the great masters of previous generations, especially the lineage disciples of His Holiness Jigme Phuntsok Rinpoche, including all the Vajrayana classes at our Buddhist Academy, must study this treatise. After studying this treatise, many of the Dharma teachers at Larunga established a particularly solid foundation in all the theory and practice of Vajrayana teachings. So I hope that some of you here, although you have already completed and mastered the 5 great treatises of the Sutra teachings, when it comes to the theory of Vajrayana, you may not have known very much about them before. I think many of us here have completed our studies of the 5 great treatises of the Sutra teachings and have already obtained the bachelor's degrees. However, regarding Vajrayana, you haven't formally and systematically studied them yet. So this time, there will probably be many new terms and some specialized terminology for you. These may feel a bit unfamiliar at first, but gradually you will come to understand them. So I hope you'll listen carefully to each word and its meaning. The first homage is homage to all gurus, yidam deities, dakinis, and dharma protectors. Below, Mifam Rinpoche says, Namo Guru Manjugoshaya, which means homage to the Guru Manjugoshaya. Mifam Rinpoche is commonly recognized as an emanation of Manjushri. His Vajra master, Jamyang Khyentse Wangpo, is also commonly recognized as an emanation of Manjushri. Here he pays homage to Manjushri, the manifestation of the wisdom of all Tathagatas, Manjushri. This is the general homage. Below are the specific homage verses and the commitment verses. Now for the homage verses. In the inner space of original purity, free from elaboration, inseparable from the spontaneous presence of the depth of awareness, your wisdom body is free from aging and decline. May the youthful Manjushri grant auspiciousness. Actually, regarding these homage verses, Mifam Rinpoche also explained in his Gateway to Knowledge that some directly state homage and some use auspicious words as a form of praise. These are also homage verses, and some use words of praise to express homage. Actually, they're all the same because they all express the qualities of the object of homage and generate joyful and respectful minds through these words. So they can all be called homage verses because he doesn't explicitly say homage here. He asks Manjushri to grant us auspiciousness. So how does granting auspiciousness become homage? Actually, in terms of meaning, this should be understood as paying homage in the highest and most supreme way. What does this mean? In the inner space of original purity, free from elaboration, inseparable from the spontaneous presence of the depth of awareness. Original purity, free from elaboration, from the perspective of the great perfection, the essence of all phenomena is originally pure. And from the middle way perspective, everything is originally free from the 4 extremes and 8 elaborations, free from elaboration. Whether it's original purity or freedom from elaboration, this is actually what we call the inner space. What is the inner space? The essence of all phenomena is not merely empty, nor is it complete nothingness. It is such an inexpressible state. This inexpressible state, in how it appears, is actually our awareness, the awakened aspect of mind. That is to say, in the great perfection, when there is original purity and spontaneous presence, various Dharmakaya aspects and Sambhogakaya aspects appear. The appearing clear light and the empty essence are actually inseparable. It is always like this, free from all aging, free from all change and suffering. All of these are absent. This is called the true wisdom body. Actually, the first line primarily discusses the Dharmakaya of pure essence. The second line discusses the Sambhogakaya of luminous nature. The third line actually discusses the Nirmanakaya that manifests various forms of display before sentient beings. We can also say these are the 3 kayas, Dharmakaya, Sambhogakaya, and Nirmanakaya. Manjushri, who possesses the 3 kayas, appears before sentient beings as a 16-year-old youthful form. Actually, is the 16-year-old form holding a sword really Manjushri? Not necessarily. This is a symbolic representation. The true Manjushri is the inseparability of the clear light and emptiness of the mind. This is called the ultimate Manjushri. We can also call this the ultimate Samantabhadra Buddha, the ultimate Guru Padmasambhava, Amitabha Buddha, or Shakyamuni Buddha. We can say all of these. It's just that in terms of appearance, the form of the wisdom deity is Manjushri, and the form of the compassion deity is Avalokiteshvara. That's all. Therefore, in terms of appearance, this youthful Manjushri is our Yidam deity. He grants blessings, grants auspiciousness, and grants siddhis to practitioners at any time and any place. So the author, with an understanding that the essence of all phenomena is inseparable from the Yidam deity, pays homage to Manjushri in this way. So this homage verse has actually already completely expressed all the most profound principles of this treatise. This is the homage verse. The second verse is a homage to the omniscient Longchenpa. In the basic space of the evenness of phenomena, you have fully perfected the manifestation of self-appearances as the 3 kayas, original protector free from obstruction, and Longchenpa, Drymed Odza, please watch over me. This is Mifam Rinpoche paying homage to omniscient Longchenpa. When paying homage to Longchenpa, how does he express it? The essence of all phenomena can be called the basic space. When the ground manifestation appears from within the basic space, when the ground manifestation appears from within the ground, like Samantabhadra Buddha, he recognized his own nature and already attained accomplishment. He did not become confused and did not wander into samsara, but sentient beings have already wandered into samsara. In such a basic space, when self-appearances manifest, the omniscient Longchenpa had already recognized the nature of his mind. He had already perfected the Dharmakaya, Sambhogakaya, and Nirmanakaya. All the wonderful powers were completely perfected. The display and wonderful powers all completely perfected. Because sentient beings have not perfected the wonderful powers of the 3 kayas, they wander in samsara. But masters like Longchenpa have perfected the 3 kayas of the path level. Actually, according to Tsongkhapa's The Great Exposition of Secret Mantra, there are the 3 kayas of the ground level, the 3 kayas of the path level, and the 3 kayas of the result level. Although their essence is one, different levels also have different manifestations. So those who have perfected the 3 kayas of the ground level are like Samantabhadra Buddha. Those who have perfected the 3 kayas of the path level are like the omniscient Longchenpa. When the omniscient Longchenpa manifested the appearances from the ground, the 3 kayas, Dharmakaya, Sambhogakaya, and Nirmanakaya, had all already been perfected in his own realization. In this way, all the obscurations of the essential nature, the essential purity, and the purity free from stains, both types of purity, the essential purity and the purity free from stains are both present. And he was free from all afflictive obscurations and cognitive obscurations. He is none other than Samantabhadra Buddha, the original protector. The omniscient Longchenpa has 8 different names. It seems they're also mentioned in the brief biography of the omniscient Longchenpa that I translated before. Where does the name Longchenpa come from? When Longchenpa relied upon Kumaraza at Yarlung Snow Mountain, Kumaraza taught him the great perfection. When he realized the essence of the great perfection, his master was extremely joyful and gave him the name Longchenpa. Also, at the place called Sewalung, he met the great Tertun Ratna Lingpa. At that time, Venerable Longchenpa received the prophecy of Guru Padmasambhava and was given the name Drime Ozer, meaning immaculate light. So Venerable Longchenpa's different names all have different meanings. Here he says, Omniscient Longchenpa, free from stains, please always protect me. I hope that all of you here will often pray to Manjushri, at least outwardly. This is really important. Why? The omniscient Longchenpa and our lineage masters are all emanations of Manjushri. When we pray to Manjushri, I believe the blessings are the most direct. One is that praying to Manjushri is very important. The second is that you should often pray to the omniscient Longchenpa. Originally at the exoteric and esoteric shrine hall here, before class every day, we would recite the prayers to the omniscient Longchenpa and Mifam Rinpoche. For myself as well, since I was young. Basically, ever since hearing the name of Longchenpa, I have continuously maintained the practice of praying to him. Later, we recited too much in class, so we didn't specifically arrange it, but I hope you will often pray to Venerable Longchenpa. I think the blessing power of Venerable Longchenpa is indeed different from all others, and it's particularly direct. There are many teachings, including those taught by Venerable Longchenpa, such as finding comfort and ease in the nature of mind and finding comfort and ease in meditation. Many of these teachings are extremely powerful in directly pointing out the nature of mind and destroying afflictions. So here it also says, please, omniscient Longchenpa, always protect me. Below, the 3rd verse is a homage to Rongzom Pandita. When Mifam Rinpoche taught the beacon of certainty, he also frequently cited the views of Venerable Longchenpa and Rongzom Pandita. As the lion of speech, the fire of your reasoning incinerated the wild thickets of the proponents of perverse views in this world, and you attained an ambrosia-like kaya of gentle glory. May you, Rongzom Chokyi Zangpo, be ever victorious. Here he says that Rongzom Pandita is actually inseparable from Manjushri. That is to say, his speech attained great mastery. In this world, no one could surpass him in any debate or any theory. His fire of reasoning or fire of wisdom could completely burn away the dense thickets of wrong views in this world. At the time when Rongzom Pandita appeared in this world, there were many people in this world who did not accept Vajrayana. Especially regarding the original purity of Vajrayana, there were many wrong views. After Rongzom Pandita composed the Entering the Great Vehicle and several other treatises, including the Black Snake Discourse and so forth, all the dense thickets of wrong views in this world were completely burned away without remainder. Actually, sometimes in this world there is a great need for such a great wise one who can destroy all wrong views. Without such a person, many wrong views and wrong teachings will spread in this world. At such a time, if a person of particularly great wisdom stands up and completely destroys these dense thickets of wrong views, then the Dharma can flourish once again. On the outer level, the flames of Rongzom Pandita's wisdom were extremely fierce, but actually he was very gentle. Manjushri here is an antonym for extremely fierce. He was incredibly peaceful, very gentle and serene. What did he attain? He attained the deathless ambrosia-like kaya, or we can say the wisdom body. He attained the truly ultimate wisdom body. In this way, may Rongzom Pandita Chokyi Zangpo be victorious over all. This is also a homage verse. Among homage verses, there are those that pray for his victory as a form of homage. There are also those that pray for all the blessings of his body, speech, and mind to merge into my heart. So here he is also praying to Rongzom Pandita for his victory. Below we discuss the homage verse to the 3 roots, to the Vidyadhara gurus of the wisdom, symbolic, and oral lineages, the Yidam deities with peaceful, passionate, and wrathful demeanors, and the Dakinis of the 3 sacred places, as well as the 3 lineages of protectors, to the all-pervasive deities of the 3 roots, I respectfully pay homage. This is a homage verse. Here there is homage to the gurus, homage to the Yidam deities, and homage to the Dakinis and Dharma protectors. This is also called the three roots. Actually, the practice of the three roots is still very important. As a practitioner, you should regularly practice, for example, Guru Yoga, as well as the practices of the peaceful and wrathful Yidam deities, and the practices of the Dakinis and Dharma protectors. A practitioner cannot be separated from these. I hope all of us, as part of our daily practice, will do Guru Yoga at least once every day. And then, regarding your own Yidam deity, whether you practice Manjushri or Avalokiteshvara, or perhaps Amitabha Buddha, you should have a Yidam deity. In order for your practice to be complete, you should rely on the blessings of some Dharma protectors and Dakinis. So you should regularly recite some prayers to the Dharma protectors. These are called the three roots. As practitioners, we, especially those of us studying Vajrayana, cannot be separated from them. So what are the gurus? There are three types. The gurus of the mind, direct transmission of the Buddhas, and the gurus of the oral transmission from individuals. For the mind direct transmission of the Buddhas, generally speaking, all the qualities in the mind stream of one Tathagata also exist in the mind streams of other Tathagatas. This is called the mind direct transmission of the Buddhas. For example, the wisdom of Samantabhadra Buddha also exists in the mind streams of the other 5 Buddha families. Although it's not transmitted from one to the other, it exists through a way of mutual correspondence and mutual alignment. This is also called the mind direct transmission of the Buddhas. Then for the sign transmission of the Vidyadharas, generally speaking, true Vidyadharas are like bodhisattvas of the first bhumi and above. We can say that. As for similar Vidyadharas, anyone with a certain level of realization can be called this. Vidyadharas are those with sharp faculties who can attain realization through a symbolic indication. It's not necessary to use a lot of doctrinal explanations. It's not necessary. I think this is quite similar to the biographies of some accomplished masters in the Chan tradition. For example, Vimalamitra and Guru Padmasambhava, as well as Sri Singha, Garab Dorje, and many other masters, through a master's crystal sphere or a master's symbolic indication, they immediately attained realization. Actually, for this kind of sign transmission of the Vidyadharas, on the surface, what we see is simply an object. If someone with dull faculties looks at this object, they might develop other kinds of thoughts. For instance, when seeing a wrathful deity with 3 eyes and 6 arms, someone with wrong views might think, this looks weird. People usually have 2 arms. Why does this one have 6? Maybe it's some kind of... They might develop all sorts of misconceptions. But if someone is a Vidyadhara with sharp faculties, upon seeing the 6 arms, they'll think, this represents the 6 paramitas. They instantly gain realization of the 6 paramitas. Like when they see 3 eyes, they get that it represents the 3 times. Right away, they'll realize all sorts of symbolic meanings tied to 3. We also often talk about many symbolic indications, don't we? When worldly people hear about 2, if their minds are impure, they might think of male and female and immediately generate other afflictions. This is possible. But if it's a Vidyadhara, when I indicate 2, they know. This is the union of wisdom and compassion. They gain this realization right away. Many Vidyadharas, through just one symbolic sign, gain immediate realization of the states they should achieve. This is called the sign transmission of the Vidyadharas. As for the oral transmission of individuals, such as from Guru Padmasambhava to the Dakini Yeshe Tsogyal, it was passed down continuously through oral instruction, this type of transmission. Actually, this can be explained among the entire lineage of gurus as well, or between disciples and gurus. There's also this explanation. For instance, the realization states that the guru has attained, the disciple quickly comes to know them. This is what we call the mind transmission of the Buddhas. Through the Tathagata's blessings, the disciple also knows the states of realization in the guru's mind. With the sign transmission of the Vidyadharas, the guru employs symbolic means, perhaps a hand gesture or another simple indication, and the student immediately realizes the meaning. This is what we call the sign transmission of the Vidyadharas. For the oral transmission of individuals, the guru explains sentence by sentence, and the disciple hears sentence by sentence. The transmission has been received and the blessing has been obtained. This kind of transmission can be called the oral transmission of individuals. So these also occur between guru and disciple, and within the succession of lineage masters, we have these three great transmissions. In the Nyingma tradition, we often speak of the three lineages of transmissions. The three lineages of transmissions are very important transmissions. The lineage masters of these three great transmissions, together with the peaceful and wrathful Yidam deities. Actually, in the verse, there's the word passionate, Yidam deities with peaceful, passionate, and wrathful demeanors. Perhaps it's better to include passionate originally in the middle, but I think it should be the Yidam deities in their peaceful, passionate, and wrathful forms, and also the dakinis of the three sacred places. This is very important. Speaking of peaceful Yidams, they're typically like Shakyamuni Buddha or Amitabha Buddha in their single forms. These are called peaceful Yidam deities. Then there are Yidam deities with passionate aspects, such as those in union forms. Those are called passionate deities. And there are also wrathful deities. Actually, all three of these forms are Yidam deities. Why is this? Nowadays, some people don't really understand the deities in union and wrathful forms. Actually, this is one's own conceptual thinking. Why is that? Because these Yidam deities, Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, actually liberate countless sentient beings. And to liberate these countless beings, they rely on manifesting in various forms. When I see beings with a peaceful disposition, I manifest in a form like Amitabha Buddha to inspire joy in them and lead them into the Dharma. This kind of physical form can guide them in. However, some sentient beings, especially those in the desire realm, have strong attachments to romantic and sexual love. They're attracted to union forms, deities appearing as male and female together. At the beginning, they have a kind of curiosity. This can draw them in and lead them onto the path. They can be liberated this way. And there's another type who are relatively rough. They are tamed using wrathful forms. In this way, beings of different capacities are tamed by peaceful forms, passionate forms, and wrathful forms. Apart from these, there are no others. So regarding some of the symbols in Vajrayana, it's really important to understand their secret meaning. In Karma Chakma Rinpoche's Mountain Dharma, it says, take Hayagriva, for instance. He's a Yidam deity with the head of a horse. Then there's Vajravarahi. Varahi literally means pig. Why is there a Yidam deity with a horse's head? It's not that there's actually such an animal that is very pitiful and was reborn here. It's not like that. The horse head symbolizes how a swift steed gallops. It travels extremely fast. So through Vajrayana practice, in a very short time, you can reach the wondrous shore of Samantabhadra's fruition, arriving at your destination swiftly. So this symbolizes that, appearing with a horse's head form to tame sentient beings. Why is Vajravarahi manifesting with a pig's head? Generally speaking, pigs, dogs, and these animals, they don't have much attachment to good or bad things. Even impure excrement, they eat it happily. Good things, they also eat well. They don't have any particular preference. Actually, in the conduct of Vajrayana, good and bad are equal. In terms of the essential nature, good and bad are indeed equal. There's no difference. So this is a symbol. Consider this. Say a company has a consumer product they want to advertise. Companies might use provocative imagery or fierce visuals on their products. Basically, to attract customers, they'll try anything on their packaging. But once they've drawn customers in, the point isn't the advertisement itself. It's to sell their products and gain more and more customers. So I think the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas are also like this. They themselves have no desire or hatred whatsoever. When a wrathful deity wields a blade, does he actually want to kill anyone? Not at all. But by manifesting in this wrathful form, the afflictions of certain beings can indeed be directly pacified. And some beings need to be guided through union forms, because the faculties of sentient beings are vastly different, with all sorts of different inclinations. Some drawn to this, others to that. If other ordinary forms cannot subdue them, some can actually be tamed and transformed through these union forms. It's just like a consumer product. They create various advertisements, but the purpose of creating advertisements is to sell their product. Buddhas and Bodhisattvas also manifest in various forms and ultimately allow these sentient beings to attain a kind of peace. In the Sutrayana teachings, generally speaking, for example, the thousand-armed Avalokiteshvara has slightly symbolic representations of wrathful forms. Each one does. Including some forms of Manjushri, they also hold various kinds of swords. The other day someone said, Vajrayana have many weapons, don't they? I said, in the Sutrayana teachings there are also weapons. How do you understand this? Later this person didn't give me an answer. Actually, the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas don't really want to become many different forms, each one holding weapons to fight. It's not like that, but when taming sentient beings, appearing in worldly forms is very necessary. Now, many people don't understand these principles. This is why there are quite a few people who misunderstand many aspects of Vajrayana. Why must Vajrayana be kept secret? Because many people just can't accept these teachings. Whether it's the methods for taming sentient beings, or the pith instructions for recognizing the nature of one's own mind, these are too profound. Generally speaking, people without wisdom cannot accept them. So here he discusses the peaceful and wrathful Yidam deities, or we can say the 42 peaceful deities and the 58 wrathful deities. This can also be the 100 peaceful and wrathful deities, and also the Dakinis of the 3 sacred places. Sometimes we explain this as Sky Dakini, Earth Dakini, and Underground Dakini. There's also this explanation. And also Kormergent Dakini, Field-born Dakini, and Mantra-born Dakini. There are 3 different types of Dakinis, or all the Dakinis above ground and below ground. And also the 3 lineages of Dharma protectors. Some explanations say these are Kriya Tantra, Charya Tantra, and Yoga Tantra. Within Yoga Tantra, there are also Mahayoga Tantra, Anuyoga Tantra, and Atiyoga Tantra, all the Dharma protectors mentioned in the 3 Tantras and so forth. Pay homage before all the gurus, Yidam deities, Dakinis, and Dharma protectors. Many masters often do this. For example, when making offerings, they say, I pay homage to the all-pervasive 3 roots. Sometimes you can say, I make offerings to the all-pervasive 3 roots. Today, if you have some good food, you can recite the verses above once and say, I pay homage and make offerings to the all-pervasive 3 roots. This is also acceptable, because within this, all the Yidam deities that should be offered to are already completely included. The homage verses have been completed. Now below is the statement of commitment. Throughout the 3 realms, the lion's roar of the supreme vehicle proclaims the exaltation of the original purity and evenness of phenomenal existence, terrifying the hordes of teachers like wild beasts whose speech is perverted. This pith meaning of the profound and vast Vajra Tantras, possessing the 6 sublime features of secret mantra's earlier translation school, will be fully explained here in this concise overview of the essence. Like the way in which the brilliant light of the sun and moon thoroughly dispels the darkness of the 10 directions. This passage below mainly says, what can fully reveal the primordially pure nature of all phenomena? It is the supreme vehicle of great bliss. The supreme vehicle of great bliss refers to the great perfection. Why is it called great bliss? The wisdom that is free from all the suffering of samsara is called great bliss. This vehicle of the great perfection is the lion's roar. The lion's roar doesn't mean praising oneself and belittling others. We ourselves say it's the great perfection. Only when we rely on practice and realization and examine things with reasoning do we come to understand that this is truly the lion's roar. Such a lion's roar throughout the 3 realms causes all beings with wrong views, like herds of beasts, tremble with fear. If the theories of the great perfection are truly explained in other traditions, indeed some wrong views cannot help but be afraid. So in which tradition is this kind of dharma found? It is in the Nyingma tradition. Here everyone must definitely understand. Why is this? Because the Nyingma tradition actually possesses 6 sublime features. What are these 6 sublime features? The first sublime feature is the excellence of the patron. This is actually very important. I often think, for example, during the Tang Dynasty in the Han region, it was really true. At that time, Buddhism possessed the 6 sublime features. We can basically say this. In our Tibetan region, it's also true. King Trisong Detsen, King Songtsen Gampo, and King Trai Ralpachen, during these 3 generations of kings, Buddhism should be said to have been very flourishing. And it's just like Buddhism that is now officially recognized. When there is official recognition, the power is completely different. Why do I say this? At that time, the patrons were also emanations of the three protectors, King Trisong Detsen, King Songtsen Gampo, and the others. The other patrons were not just very devoted in their hearts, but had no position or ability at all. It was not like that. So the patrons are also different. Who can compare with kings? In the Han region at that time, like Emperor Gaozong of Tang and others, indeed, the patrons were very excellent. The translations at that time can also be called the earlier translation school, although in the Han region we don't say it like that, but we can say it like that. This is called sublime feature of the patron, then sublime feature of the translators. At that time, all these translators, like Vairochana, Kawa Paltsek, and Chokro Lui Gyaltsen, these were all emanations of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. All the languages they spoke were particularly sublime. The translators were also particularly sublime. Then excellence of the Panditas. The Panditas who came from India, like Guru Padmasambhava, Vimalamitra, and Shantarakshita, these Panditas were also publicly recognized as true emanations of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. And also at that time, sublime feature of the translation place, like Sami Chimfu and Sami Monastery. Buddhism was extremely flourishing in the Tibetan region. Generally speaking, if it's not genuine teachings, there would be no opportunity there. And also at that time, sublime feature of the offerings. When these translators went to India, the offerings they made were all bags and bags of gold. It wasn't a tiny piece of gold hidden under the armpit sneaking around. In that way, generally what you would find would also be minor panditas and minor dharma teachers. It was not like that. So this was officially recognized. It's completely different. And also at that time, sublime feature of the Dharma. Indian Buddhism had not been destroyed at all at its root. At that time, Buddhism was extremely flourishing. When Atisha came to the Tibetan region, he also said, these secret tantras in the Sami library, one, we didn't have them even when Buddhism flourished most in India. Because back then, Tibetan region had so many Vidyadharas, not just from India, but Odiyana, the Naga realm, bringing treasure teachings and secret tantras from all over. Of course, this doesn't mean that the Dharma of the later translation school is not sublime. It's not like that. But comparatively speaking, at that time in every respect, whether it was the royal patrons or the translators, everything they translated was exceptionally sublime. The Nyingma tradition is generally called the earlier translation school. From Tonmi Sambota up to the translator Lotsawa Vairocana, what was translated during the early dissemination period is called the earlier translation school. This is mainly the origin of the Nyingma tradition. The various traditions that came later arose during the later dissemination period, because at that time, in the Tibetan region, there was also no official king, although at that time there was Lalama, Yeshe-o, and others who sacrificed themselves for the Dharma. There were also some very remarkable kings, but there was no single unified sovereign, nor was there a universally recognized chief translator. These translators also frequently went to Nepal and to those places. Sometimes they really couldn't bear the weather, so they came back, or they relied on some minor pandita and then came back. By the time of the later dissemination period, these minor panditas from India also frequently came to the Tibetan region for the sake of money. There were all kinds of situations. So of course the later translation school also has many sublime features, but comparatively speaking, the earlier translation school is extremely sublime. So here he says, this pith, meaning of the profound and vast Vajra Tantras, will be fully explained here in this concise overview of the essence. These excellent explanations are likened to brilliant light of the sun and moon. Here the wondrous clouds are like Samantabhadra's cloud offerings, with 10,000 rays of light. The light of the sun and moon is like clouds, like the ocean. There are particularly many kinds of descriptive words, such countless rays of light, the essence of the overview, thorough dispelling of darkness throughout the 10 directions. Maifam Rinpoche says, I will briefly explain this here. I need to speak for a few more minutes. Please persevere a little. Because this is our first session, I notice some of you seem a little tired. When I was teaching at a school once, as I was teaching, all the teachers and students below fell asleep. Then I didn't want to continue teaching. I said, you have all fallen asleep. Let's end here for today. People's habitual tendencies are still very strong. Sometimes, for example, if we teach for 2 hours every day, perhaps you don't feel tired. If normally we only teach for 1 hour, but today we may have added more than 40 minutes. In this way, as we've gotten later into the class, many of you aren't looking as fresh as you did at the start. At the start, you were all focused on me. but then gradually wilted. Your expressions are one of my main sources of energy. Let me continue for 10 more minutes. I'll see. At 25 past the hour, we'll start reciting the Great Perfection Manjushri and the King of Aspiration prayers. We should be able to finish on time. Sound good? However, teaching at Larungar is still all right. Everyone has the aspiration to listen to the Dharma. Some people may not be able to listen, but the people next to them are all listening, so they still pretend to be listening. In schools and companies outside, it's not like this. Especially when I went to the Hong Kong Institute of Education, many people below toward the end seemed to feel perhaps I wasn't teaching well, or perhaps they had never heard the Dharma before. It seemed like many people below had no particular feeling, and then I couldn't continue teaching. It seemed like all the men over there were people in their 70s and 80s. Perhaps later you'll say, originally I thought Vajrayana was very good, but I don't know. I didn't understand anything at all. The Homage verses have been completed. The explanation of this great Tantra, the glorious magical manifestation matrix, the secret essence definitive nature just as it is, in which mind and wisdom are revealed to be self-appearances, has two sections. In the magical manifestation matrix, it explains that mind and wisdom are revealed to be self-appearances. This is very important. Generally, in the overview of the commentary on the ornament of the middle way, it seems to also discuss post-meditation and meditative equipoise. During meditative equipoise, everything is emptiness. There's nothing to grasp at. But during post-meditation, there are also pure and impure appearances. Pure appearances are all manifestations of wisdom. All impure appearances are a kind of manifestation of mind. This principle is explained particularly clearly in the magical manifestation matrix. This is called the glorious magical manifestation matrix, and also called Vajrasattva's magical manifestation matrix. And there's also Manjushri's magical manifestation matrix, which is chanting the names of Manjushri. This secret essence definitive nature, just as it is Tantra, is the most ultimate. There's nothing more ultimate than this. It truly reveals the original nature of all phenomena. This great Tantra is divided into two aspects. One, the greatness of the Tantra to be explained. Two, an explanation of its meaning. First, we explain the greatness of the Tantra, and then we begin to explain the meaning of the Tantra. One, the greatness of the Tantra to be explained. First, this general Tantra, the great magical manifestation matrix, holds a secret that surpasses all others, for it fully illuminates the crucial wisdom intent of all oceanic Tantras of Vajrayana. The magical manifestation matrix is actually extremely secret within Tantric teachings. If ordinary sentient beings cannot understand it, they have no way to enter the profound teachings. It's just like quantum mechanics in the world. People without a certain foundation simply cannot understand it at all. When British scientists went to Tsinghua and Peking University to lecture, everyone fell asleep. And then the scientists were particularly disappointed. It's like this. It's particularly secret. Within Tantric teachings, it's also particularly secret. This is only the general Tantra. According to Longchenpa, this collection contains many tantras. Among them, this is the mind root tantra, the mind aspect of body, speech, and mind. The magical manifestation matrix can illuminate the crucial wisdom intent of all oceanic tantras of Vajrayana. If we listen to the magical manifestation matrix this time, we will definitely know the general principles of all the conduct, view, and practice within Vajrayana. You'll think, oh, so this is what Vajrayana really is. Not what I imagined. including what I just explained. For example, some explanations of the union forms and wrathful forms in Vajrayana. Vajrayana practitioners really need to understand these basics. Otherwise, when others see you wearing red robes, oh, you study Vajrayana. And then when they ask some questions, you can only say, I don't know. When I went to some universities this time, there were some Buddhist research institutes among them, some PhD students when I first met them. Their supervisors, perhaps because their supervisors felt a bit unsure, would say things like, our institution isn't legitimate, my title is fake. Sure, I'm a Buddhist PhD, but I don't really have, and so on. At the beginning, perhaps they were a bit worried I would ask them questions. If they didn't say this, I also wouldn't ask them questions. It's the same with Vajrayana practitioners. When they visit Han regions, they rush to say, don't take my robe seriously, please don't ask me questions. We also don't need to be like this. We should understand some basic things. Especially from my own feeling, the view of Vajrayana is very important. If Vajrayana is just conduct, indeed they are very easy to change. If we truly establish a good foundation through study and contemplation, this is very important. This magical manifestation matrix can reveal the true meaning of the tantras of Vajrayana, as it states in the Tantra mirror of Vajrasattva's heart. The generation stage Mahayoga resembles the ground of all doctrines. The completion stage Anuyoga resembles the path of all doctrines. And the great perfection Atiyoga resembles the result of all doctrines. Mifam Rinpoche here cites a scriptural source from the Tantras. This scriptural source discusses the generation stage, completion stage, and the great perfection. Within the three inner tantras of Vajrayana, these three are primarily discussed. One is that the generation stage is Mahayoga. Mahayoga, in India they often call it yoga. What does it mean? Maha means great, it means great yoga. It is the foundation of all phenomena and all practice. Why is this? Because within Mahayoga, the principle of the original purity of all phenomena is explained very clearly through scriptural sources and reasoning. We might say that all phenomena are originally pure. For example, if we say that the 5 meats and 5 nectars are all pure, just saying it verbally is not enough. But if you truly understand Mahayoga, then you know that everything is indeed originally pure. This is called Mahayoga. It is the foundation of all practice and also the ground of all phenomena. Then there's the completion stage, Anuyoga. Actually, in the completion stage, one generally practices the channels, wines, and essential fluids. This kind of practice method, this is called Anuyoga. Anuyoga is called subsequent yoga, and the yoga that follows along with it. Anu means following it, accompanying it. Subsequent yoga. Subsequent yoga resembles the path of all phenomena. With the completion stage, once the foundation is established, it becomes the path you follow. Everyone must practice along the path of the clear light body and union body, practicing according to this principle. Finally, the great perfection is Atiyoga. Atiyoga is called utmost yoga. That is to say, it's the yoga of the highest peak, the highest yoga. The highest yoga is the fruition of all phenomena. Within Atiyoga, the great perfection, actually the true original nature of mind is pointed out to everyone through the fruition approach. This is called the fruition of all phenomena. He also says here, given that Mahayoga teaches the complete meaning of the ground, path, and result of Vajrayana, based on that, it is necessary to gain certainty in all practices of Vajrayana. Mahayoga is very important, because the magical manifestation matrix is actually the principal tantra of Mahayoga. Within Mahayoga, there is also ground, path, and result. In Anuyoga, there is also ground, path, and result. In Atiyoga, there is also ground, path, and result. But on the foundation of Mahayoga, all other practices of Vajrayana can be established. If you truly understand Mahayoga, Mahayoga refers to the magical manifestation matrix we are now teaching. The magical manifestation matrix is primarily the Atiyoga of Mahayoga. Therefore, on the foundation of Mahayoga, practicing any dharma becomes relatively easy. If you don't even understand this, I'm afraid you're just wearing red robes, saying you study Vajrayana. When I went to Hong Kong, there were some particularly strange Vajrayana groups in Hong Kong. They themselves think they practice Vajrayana. Some wear hats like Guru Padmasambhavas, but even those differ, with all sorts of silk brocades inside. The hats look pretty strange, all kinds of variations. Same with their outfits and ornaments. Comparatively, Han Buddhism is still relatively good. Perhaps it's the blessing of His Holiness Jigme Phuntsok Rinpoche. Now, we don't have those that are so openly and particularly strange ones at Larungar. There are also some who blow human bone trumpets, some who hold various kinds of ritual implements, and there are tens of thousands of people who all start calling out, our Vajra Guru, and so on. Those people also say, I am Samantabhadra Buddha, I am Vajradhara. My 5 great disciples are the 5 Buddha families, and so on. All kinds of statements. There really are these. So sometimes being too open also has certain risks. When you get there, once you search online, wow, you end up not even daring to look. There was a person next to me who said many of them don't dare to look anymore. As they kept looking, they all thought, wow, this place is too. Comparatively speaking, in the Han region now, although there are some things that don't accord with Dharma, but they're done quietly, under the radar, not out in the open. If inappropriate conduct is too public, it has a particularly damaging influence. And authentic Dharma practice isn't really flourishing there. So regarding these aspects, I think we ourselves need to understand which places have genuine Vajrayana. Concerning this inner Tantra of secret mantra Mahayoga, if specific categories are enumerated, the Tantras contained herein are limitless, because there are limitless Tantras. Why are there limitless Tantras? The ways of approaching wisdom's magical manifestation matrix of deities, mantra, and samadhi are limitless in that they conform to each disciple's elements, faculties, and intentions. This is why it cannot be said, the limit is this. This passage is very important. Previously, when His Holiness was finally teaching the magical manifestation matrix at Larungar, once His Holiness said that regarding this passage, he gained an unprecedented certainty. Indeed, I also looked at it later. This passage is very important because the faculties of sentient beings are different, the intentions of sentient beings are different, and the display of wisdom's magical manifestation matrix, whether it's deities, mantras, or samadhis, are all limitless. Take Avalokiteshvara, for instance. Avalokiteshvara appears in white, blue, black, red, all kinds of forms. In the Han region, there are countless forms of Avalokiteshvara. In the Tibetan region, there are countless forms of Avalokiteshvara. This is because the faculties of sentient beings are different. As for Amitabha Buddha, there are seated forms and also standing forms, different images. For all Buddhas, you cannot say this one is real and that one is fake. The intentions of each sentient being are all different. So this is very important. Take mantras, for example. Tara has many different mantras, countless variations. Manjushri also has many different mantras. Avalokiteshvara has numerous ones too. Regarding the practice methods of samadhi, in each Terton's practice methods in the Tibetan region, there are different Avalokiteshvara sadhanas. In the Han region, it's also like this. This Avalokiteshvara practice method, that Avalokiteshvara practice method, that Yidam deity's practice method, this Yidam deity's practice method, not to mention within Buddhism itself, even some of the practice methods of non-Buddhist traditions are very hard to evaluate. Indeed, it's very hard to evaluate. We cannot easily slander them. Within Buddhism itself, in the Tibetan region, there are also the Nyingma tradition, Kagyu tradition, Gelug tradition, so many traditions. And within the Nyingma tradition, there are also the Katok tradition, Dzogchen tradition, Palyul tradition, and so on, many, many. Within each tradition, there are many different practice methods, different mantras, and different sadhanas, and the form of each deity is also different. Therefore, if you understand that these are all the displays of wisdom's magical manifestation matrix, because wisdom's magical manifestation matrix can manifest all kinds of different forms. For example, I am a very successful corporate chairman. When I advertise, I will create all kinds of advertisements to attract many people. In the end, as I said before, what is my purpose? It's to attract them. Similarly, the forms of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas in this world are all kinds of varieties. If you understand this, you'll see, originally in the world, Amitabha Buddha appears in this color in Tibetan Buddhism, while in Han region Buddhism, there's another color. Some people get really confused about what each Buddha holds. If Manjushri holds a sword, then why, at a certain temple on Mount Wutai, I saw him riding a lion? Why is that? Is he riding the lion or sitting? Which one is right? If we take him to be a particularly solid, concrete thing, we don't understand this principle of the great magical manifestation matrix, the union of appearance and emptiness in wisdom's magical display. In fact, Buddhas and Bodhisattvas appear in all sorts of forms. Here it has already been explained. The faculties of sentient beings and their intentions are different. The display of wisdom's magical manifestation matrix, deities, mantras, samadhi, and so forth, the movements are all limitless and cannot be limited. So we must definitely keep a pure view toward all wisdom deities, mantras, sadhanas, and dharma texts. Cultivate this pure view and realize, so that's how it is. The sadhana I like might not be the one others like. I like this kind of Avalokiteshvara. When two people go to request Avalokiteshvara statues at a shop, one might say, I'll take the white one, while the other says, I'll take the seated one. Each person chooses a different form. The pendants we wear, some people wear a jade Maitreya, some wear Avalokiteshvara, others wear various forms of Manjushri. Everyone chooses something different, so the faculties of sentient beings are limitless. The forms of wisdom's magical manifestation matrix are limitless. If we get this principle, it'll really make a difference throughout our lives. Nevertheless, from the point of view of the nature, there are the two classes, the various vast common tantras, as well as the essential profound uncommon tantras. All right, I better not go on too long. It's been such a long time since I've taught tantric teaching, so I'm a bit excited. By tomorrow or the next day, I probably won't be this enthusiastic anymore. Once I've covered what needs to be covered, that'll be sufficient.
Bandara Badma Sadar